Hello and welcome to Zlib's World. Today we are going to go about some serious repotting and unmounting slash repotting. So I've got the orchids lined up today that I'm going to do my best to repot. I've got a couple mounted orchids. There's this one here. This is a Brassavola nodosa, which has a lovely night fragrance. It hasn't actually bloomed for me yet, but I bought it from somebody, and it had been mounted, and you can see the roots are growing around the tag. So anyway, I don't think this is going to be too hard to unmount because it's not a huge plant, but it is mounted with elastics, which is a little gross. You can see there's a bunch of algae on that elastic. So anyway, and I just can't keep up with mounted orchids. I'm in fact inspired by Miss Orchids Girl's video about how she can't keep up with mounted orchids, because I can't either, and I've only got two, and I think that it's probably about time to put them in a pot. So the other one that I've got is this, which is a Thrixspermum saruwatari, to the best of my knowledge, which is a Taiwanese orchid. It's not in great shape, as you can see. It's been mounted, it's been dried, and I think here it touched the light, and you can see that the leaf is kind of burned. So this poor little thing is not doing so great on its mount. It has got, however, 3 flower spikes, so there's 1, 2, and 3, and this orchid has a lovely scent. It smells like candy almost. It's got these little tiny white flowers that are absolutely like adorable. They're just so cute. And yeah, so they have a really nice fragrance in the morning. So I want to do the best I can for this poor little guy, and possibly put it in a pot and sort of put it so these can hang over the edge, because they're kind of pendulous. Next, I have these 4 orchids in the back. I put these in little pots. These are all Cattleya type orchids, and their roots have grown like crazy, and I'm starting to learn about Cattleyas that I knew they like to be tightly potted, but I think this is a little bit too tightly potted, because some of these are young and I don't know how big they're going to get. And as you can see, we've got lots of roots that are just growing out of the pots, like for instance here and here and here, and well, yeah, like those roots are just going crazy. So that's a good thing. We've got lots of green growing tips, so that means that it won't be too hard to reestablish it in a new pot. This one is a no ID. It has these bright orange flowers, these little bright orange Cattleya flowers. It's a mini Cattleya, and it's got this crazy root that's just going somewhere, and I don't know where. So, and it's also wrapped around this pseudobulb, so I don't really know where it's trying to go, but out of the pot for sure. You can see it's in such a small pot, it may as well be mounted. It's barely got any bark left in there. Now this one is really taking off. This one is an Iwanagara apple blossom, which is a really lovely scented flower. I've never actually seen one in real life, and this may be slightly controversial, but I'm about to repot it, and as you can see, it has a little sheath at the top, and inside that sheath is something coming up. But I don't think it'll have a hard time. It's got all these great roots, and if they detach without too much difficulty, then I think it'll be quite a bit happier in a new pot. You can see this pot is way too small for it. I got it as a seedling, so I put it in a small pot, but I think it has bigger aspirations. So put that one back. And next, we have the Brassocataleya Punakia Lee, which has a very delicate, pretty pink flower. And before orchids, I never liked the color pink, but I just am a sucker for pink flowers. So you can see this one's also trying to escape, very heartily trying to escape. And it's also got 2 new pseudobulbs starting at the same time, so I think it's got a pretty good chance in a new pot. Now the next one that I got is the Cattleya Xiang Yu Red Pearl Red Dragonfly, which has a really, really pretty red flower. It's very, very nice. And unfortunately, I think I screwed up this last pseudo-bulb. It had a sheath and it was about to... it had this little thing inside, you can see. It had a really long sheath. It was very long and narrow. But then I decided to make it look nicer, so I tore off the sheath that was surrounding this pseudo-bulb because I thought it would make it look better. And I think I took away some of its structural integrity because this pseudo-bulb is now bent and I lost the bud or whatever was going on in there. So, fortunately, we've got a new little pseudo-bulb starting up here. And this one kind of has weird roots. I've always kind of wondered because they're kind of lumpy and strange, and you can see they're a little grotesque. But if I can tuck them away in a pot, I think that they'll have a pretty good chance because we've got lots of green growing tips. We've got lots of... it's funny how these roots branch off themselves, but yeah, so I'm gonna see if I can find a good pot for this one too. So that's the little family. Sorry, I'm having tripod troubles. It's kind of moving around on me. But, so now I'm gonna go off to the store and see if I can find some proper pots for these guys. I may or may not, the selection's a little low because it's winter time, but I'll do my best. And then we'll get to the repotting part. Alright, so on to step 2. We now have new pots. I have them sitting in the pots. These pots aren't completely ideal, but I think they'll do pretty well. It's the same height, it's just wider. The selection was a little bit low, because it's mostly Christmas trees right now at the garden center. So, you may notice this guy does not have a pot. I'm going to use one of the old Cattleya pots, the smaller ones, because I don't think he needs a very big pot, being such a little orchid and all. So I'm going to get ready to repot. Alright, so next on the list is the apple blossom. Now look at this. All of these roots are very, very strongly attached to this pot. So my friends, I've decided against taking these roots off this pot because it seems practically impossible. And I've just damaged some brand new growing tips and it's just not worth it. You can see I tug at this pot and I tug at the plant and it's just not coming out of the pot. There's like, and plus I've got a sheath on there. I don't think that I should. So I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm going to smash it with a hammer. Well, seems to be working alright so far. See if I can get these smaller pieces off. If not, I'll just put it into the new pot just like this, because it's hanging on for dear life. Yeah, it definitely doesn't want to let go. So I'll just keep smashing it so that the roots have somewhere to go. It's a shame to ruin such a nice little pot, but, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Come on, you. It seems to be working alright. So now, among the wreckage, I have my Iwanagara apple blossom. I have it anchored in the pot with a homemade rhizome clip. So you can see we got lots of nice roots still left, despite the smash it with a hammer thing. And I just gotta say, I do not condone violence in any forms, and I did not really enjoy smashing that pot with a hammer. And orchids are definitely not a violent hobby, so please don't think negatively. Like, look at those roots. I cleaned them off the best I could. I sprayed them with peroxide, and I cut off the broken ones and the dead ones, and there weren't very many dead ones. There were like 2. So now I've got her anchored in there. I'm gonna put some of this bark. Yep. Just nestle that in among the roots. Tap on the side a little to settle it. And this being a Cattleya type orchid, she likes a lot of air around her roots. So I'm using this bark mix. Or actually, should I say, bark, perlite, and charcoal. I think this pot will be a lot better fit for this orchid. It's not really in the middle there. Here, come on, move over. It's got a lot more room now to branch out and grow more roots. So, I think we're good. Let's have a look. Wow, looks like something terrible happened. But something good actually happened. And now let's say a prayer for this little sheath with this little bud in it and hope that it comes through. Alright, so let's get started on unmounting this Brassavola nodosa. So, I've got a few things. I've got these scissors, which I'm about to sterilize with rubbing alcohol. That's not really the best spraying bottle, but that should do. So I'm not going to cut very many roots anyway, so. Alright, first off, I'm going to have to cut these elastic bands. Not the best mounting choice, in my opinion. So I'm hoping this won't be too difficult. Let's see. So stressful. Oh, I broke the root. Okay. So this is a little bit of a nightmare. Okay, I'm just gonna rip it off. Ugh. Oh, those sounds. Pain. Ugh. Oh, and I even tore off a pseudo bulb. Oh, this has been a disaster. I hope this plant forgives me. So that's going to go right in this pot right here. First I'll clean off the roots and then we'll move on to that. Alright, so I'm realizing now I should have soaked it beforehand because I just put some water on it and the roots are much more pliable. I really should have done that. But you know, you can see that we've got lots of good roots anyway. They're all nice and green and plumped up. So now I'm going to go about trimming the roots that are damaged or not so great. There's that one. This poor root I've hurt. So I'll chop it off. This one too is also quite damaged. Here we've got a desiccated one. Cut it off right there. Cut off that one. And these gunky little ones right here. Don't know what's going on with them.
Some last little bits of moss. It's looking pretty good. I'm really bummed about this pseudo bulb and this leaf that we've lost here, but I think she'll be okay. So these look pretty good, and onto the next weapon in my arsenal, which is peroxide d'hydrogène, or for those of you who don't speak French, hydrogen peroxide. This is a tip that I learned from Miss Orchid Girl, to spray the roots after you have trimmed them, and it prevents fungus. It just kills a lot of bacteria. It's very good. So she's gonna go right in there. Put her into place like this. So she's more or less anchored in the pot. Let's put in some of that bark that fell out there. And here we have the Brassavola nodosa, just about ready. She's nice and potted firmly in there with a clip. So yeah, successful unmounting number 1. Next, I'm going to unmount this little Thrixpermum saruatari. It might be a little tricky, but the wood is a little bit broken down, so I think it won't be so bad. I've also soaked it first. So, here goes nothing. Alright, so that came off great. I was expecting a lot more difficulty, but this came off quite well. You can see there's no bits left behind on this bark. And it seems to be okay. It's got kind of a mess of roots here. How are we going to pot this? Oh, well, I smashed that pot, so I guess I can't use it. Hopefully one of the other orchids comes out a little easier and I don't have to smash it. So this Cattleya Punakeali has come out significantly easier than its brethren. I don't think I've damaged any roots. All is well. And he's going right in a new pot, and I can use this old one for the Thrixpermum. Wow, this table is just getting messier and messier. I have cleaned the pot and I've sterilized it by spraying peroxide inside of it. So now we're going to try to put the Thrixpermum in. I'm going to spray you with peroxide too. It looks like we don't really have any damaged roots or dead roots, so that's a good sign. So it's going to go in here like this. Actually, no, I should probably do it a little bit like this so that the flowers can hang over the side. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'm going to do a little something different with this. I'm going to mix the bark with sphagnum moss, because this orchid actually does seem to like a lot of water. Now, I can't find any information on this orchid, so if anybody knows anything, that would be just fantastic. Thrixpermum saruatari. It came with a label that I googled it and absolutely nothing came up, which I don't know why. But then I found out later on what it actually was. And yeah, it's a Thrixpermum. So, I have grown tired. I don't have the energy to repot every single one today. Look at this. Look at this mess. Look what's happened to me. There's wire and pliers and tools and hammers and a smashed pot, and it's just all too much. So here we got the 4 that we got repotted today: the Cattleya Punakeali, the Ivanagara Apple Blossom Carmilla, the Brassavola nodosa, and our little Thrixpermum saruatari, who looks a little awkward in there, but you know, I think he'll right himself and things will be okay. So, that was a very exhausting repotting video. I hope it didn't bore you too much. Hopefully there was enough action to keep you interested. And, yeah. Oh, we got a meow over here. What is it? What is it? What is it? So that's the cat that lives here. I hope you enjoyed that little interlude. Yeah, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, because that would just make my day. It makes my day when somebody subscribes. So, yeah. And give it a little thumbs up. because that also makes my day. Thank you, and goodbye, and I'll see you next time. What? What?